Unnati Access to Finance is a project supported by the Government of Denmark for the Government of Nepal and implemented by Nepal Rashtra Bank in collaboration with UNCDF. The overall aim of this project is to help the government in reducing poverty in the country.
Nepal aims to graduate from LDC status by 2022, and DFID recognises that achieving this will require sustained and inclusive economic growth. Inadequate access to finance is often a significant growth constraint in the developing world, and the case of Nepal is no exception.
The government of Nepal has recognized and is prioritizing the agenda of financial inclusion, which is one of the key factors for the country to move towards prosperity and to meet the international development goals. The discussion of financial inclusion is also very important, in particular for Nepal to move out of the group of least developed countries by 2022.
I am delighted to note that the supply side study along with the roadmap of financial inclusion for Nepal is being released today. My understanding is that this roadmap identifies the broader gaps and offer recommendation for the financial inclusion in Nepal. I hope that this conference will discuss in detail these findings and outcome of this event will give a solid foundation to the development future financial inclusion strategy for Nepal.
Our financial system would be wide enough that includes everybody into the financial services. So we can draw the parallel between a big architecture like this and the big financial architecture which can really help people to be included in terms of financial services. But being an advocate for financial inclusion, I have some concerns on the very definition of inclusion. We don't want to be very tokenist in the name of inclusion, like the people who are sitting in front here and the people who are sitting at the back. We are included here, but do we have a role at the end of the hall? No, we only have the role to play.
Financial inclusion is a key enabler to achieving the range of development objectives, which can be seen prominently in the 2030 Development Agenda for Sustainable Development, which highlights financial inclusion in 6 of the 17 development goals, as well as in the Istanbul Program of Action, which of course focuses on LDC graduation. Financial inclusion also featured very prominently in the recent World Humanitarian Summit in Istanbul as part of the disaster preparedness and disaster response toolbox. And it featured also at the Antalya midterm review of the Istanbul Program of Action.
We have released the demand side results. You will find the supply, policy and regulatory results here this morning. And we've spent a lot of time around the research and the engagement.
It's a 300-page diagnostic, so this has been a high-level overview, but there's a fair amount of detail that gets processed through to eventually come through to those priority areas, which we're going to highlight for you now.
There's a barrier to credit and there's a barrier to savings. Then how do we unlock the constrained credit and savings markets? So what do we do? And so if you look at the objectives, it's very clear. And so what are the proposed interventions? So can we do non-collateralized loans, like for new product developments we look at? Are there some long-term savings tools that we can create?
Whether the borrower has ability to pay back your loan or not. If the borrower has ability to pay back your loan, yes, okay, you can go and you can see whether the project is feasible or not. Otherwise, you need to stop for multiple lending. Why NRB has to come forward and say, okay, you cannot give money to 2 or 3 people, you cannot have a multiple lending. Now we have created a system of Credit Information Bureau. Probably that system would allow you to get information whether the borrower has taken loan from any other institutions or not.
Assess levels of financial access, sources of income, perceptions of financial instruments, and then it also sought to assess uses of ex-ante financial measures to deal with the financial stress.
I thank the Project Executive Board with whom I worked for last couple of years in carrying out this project to this stage of development, and we are pleased to at least release the demand side of financial inclusion and supply side of financial inclusion. And we have also made progress on other areas like in agriculture value chain financing,